I love you, baby. I know it. I'm trying to.
This is wonderful. This is what we've been waiting on.
It was very hard to tell if Ms. Spruill and Mr. Dixon had a beautiful relationship, or if it was just a friends with benefits kind of thing. Ms. Spruill was furious that she had to come to court to prove that Mr. Dixon was the father of her 13-month-old child, when she knew for a fact that there was no other person who could be tagged as the father of the child.
Ms. Spruill, you are furious that you had to file a paternity case against the defendant, Mr. Dixon, due to his denial of your daughter, Skya. You say you know the exact night you conceived, and he is her father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Dixon, you claim that your relationship with Ms. Spruill was purely sexual, and one conversation that occurred is that her child is not yours. Is that correct?
Mr. Dixon started by listing and explaining his doubts about why the child could definitely not be his. He brought in an exhibit to paint a vivid picture of the doubts that had been stored up in his head. He sure wasn't here to joke around because he was ready to fight Ms. Spruill to the end.
So she goes around showing pictures and, you know, excited about it, showing to her coworkers, her bosses and everything, except for one particular coworker comes out of the blue and was like, whoa, wait a minute, pause. No, that's not his baby, that's my brother's baby. Like, whoa, wait a minute, why would this girl come out of the blue and claims that this is her brother's baby just like this? So I have my doubts that this is my child.
Mr. Dixon had proof to back up his claim. Apparently, Ms. Spruill wasn't being a faithful partner during their relationship. He said she had 2 different phones she used for 2 different purposes. The first phone was to post everything about herself on Facebook, and the other phone was to talk to other men whom she happened to be intimate with. Well, at least so he claimed.
Kamaya has 2 phones. She had one phone that she used to be on the internet and she posts her whole entire life on Facebook. She has another phone where she texts and calls. She plays like she's 2 people on Facebook.
He has that number. He's not allowed to have my main number. We have no communication because, like I said,
he's not allowed to have your main number, and he's the father of your child?
We're gonna go to why he can't have my main number.
Now, Mr. Dixon had time to defend himself since he claimed he wasn't the father of the child. It was Ms. Spruill's turn to speak up, and she had some truths to let out of her chest. Mr. Dixon was not loyal at all. While he claimed to be away for work purposes, he got himself another baby with a different woman.
It wasn't even 7 months. Mr. Dixon had a whole nother child while he was still with me. He was still with me.
So what was he doing in Alabama? Not
making babies. Yeah, he was doing in some work. He put in a lot of work.
Mr. Dixon.
And not only that, once he gets down to Alabama, my daughter was all over his Facebook. Cover photo and all. The same child you've been denying.
How can you claim a baby when the baby first came into the world, only to then turn your back and deny its existence? Ms. Spruill was furious because when she initially gave birth to the child, Mr. Dixon claimed the child and was present from the time of birth. When his other baby mama found out about the child, he stopped showing care and started to deny the baby.
He was there my entire pregnancy. He was. He is the one who told me I was pregnant. He said I was pregnant because he's throwing up everywhere. He said I was pregnant.
Because he was throwing up.
He was throwing up.
Your Honor, let me tell you about that, Your Honor, about that. I had a hangover. We got drunk one night and I had a hangover and I threw up at 5, 6 o'clock that morning.
So why did you tell me to find out when I was pregnant?
Hangover.
Before she gave birth to the baby, everyone thought she was lying about being pregnant. Apparently, Mr. Dixon had been selling a different story to those around him. Moving on, everyone found out she was pregnant and Mr. Dixon had some explaining to do since he was the one who had been spreading the lies.
Everybody found out that I was pregnant. Everybody knew I was pregnant by then. Because at first, they were saying I was lying about being pregnant because Mr. Dixon kept telling them I wasn't. Even though he went to the
All she do is lie. You don't know what to
You
believe.
went with me. How did I lie?
You don't know what to believe.
So did you go with me to the appointment? Did you? Was you there when they said I was pregnant?
No, I wasn't there when they
Oh, you wasn't
came
there?
back with the results.
Oh, and didn't they tell you to come to the back? So we didn't go to the back and talk to that nice
I
lady.
was never there.
Mr. Dixon made attempts to be present in the child's life, but Ms. Spruill was not very welcoming. He approached her with the idea of wanting to change the baby's name to his, but she didn't agree. She was too upset that he hadn't been around for so long, so she wasn't going to let him put his name on the birth certificate.
As well as being willing to execute the birth certificate, why not be cooperative instead of combative?
Because the day we were supposed to go get it changed, Mr. Dixon ran right back off to Alabama.
Lies.
Oh,
We
you
had
did?
plenty of time. I didn't leave.
You
I
were
didn't
there
leave
for
till-
a week. You was there the first week of her life, Mr. Dixon.
I didn't leave back to Alabama till a month later. We had plenty of time to change his name. I done talked to
So-
every day. Let's go get this baby name changed. I got the money.
Lies,
Let's go. Let's go.
The courtroom had seen enough of Mr. Dixon and Ms. Spruill's drama about who the biological father of the baby was. It was finally time to reveal the truth and put an end to the endless argument they both didn't want to stop.
Mr. Dixon, you are the father.
Thank you.
You are her father.
Thank you.
You feel relieved, Miss Sproul?
I do.
How do you feel, Mr. Dixon?
I'm excited. I have a beautiful baby girl. I'm gonna be the best father I can, and I'm just glad the truth is out.
You could see it in his eyes, trust me. Mr. Carroll wanted nothing more for the child to be his. He was in court to prove to his ex-girlfriend that he was the biological father of her 26-year-old daughter. Even though the defendant denied his claim several times, he just refused to accept that he wasn't the father. It all started like this.
Mr. Carroll, you are here to prove to your ex-girlfriend, Ms. Goggins, that you are the biological father of her 26-year-old daughter, Shirletha Carroll.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say when your daughter was 5 years old, the defendant told you another man was her father, but you refused to believe it.
Yes, Your Honor.
You saw it for yourself. He wants her to be his daughter so bad. Throughout the years, Mr. Carroll never had any doubts about being her father, even when the defendant told him several times that he wasn't the father. But Ms. Goggins claimed she had a one-night stand, and she believes that he is the father of her daughter.
Jesse, we were basically broken up, and then I end up going to her father saying that I needed someone to talk to, so me and him end up having sex, and I knew that it was
The one-night stand.
the hairdresser, and he said that I told him 5 years later, which it wasn't 5 years later, because when I was pregnant with her.
If he was hoping to convince Ms. Goggins about being the father, he definitely failed at that. Her mind was fixed on the fact that he was not and could not be the father of her child. Mr. Carroll recalled their relationship being shaky at the time, and throughout their time together, Ms. Goggins never told him she wasn't his child.
First of all, me and Tina at that time was still in a relationship. It was just shaky. Lily was 5 years old, and she came over my mother's house, and she told me that she had something to tell me. And then she told Lily would go off. She's 5, so she's trying to go off or whatever. She was like, "No, Lily, I want Lily to hear this." You know, when she told me Lily was not my daughter, Lily was standing right there, because I will never forget the face that she had.
Moving on, Ms. Goggins remembered the period when she gave birth to her daughter. Mr. Carroll was in the hospital, and he cut the cord. But the moment he saw the baby, he asked Ms. Goggins whose child it was because she was too light-skinned. From that moment on, Ms. Goggins decided that the baby could not be his.
Every room with me, you seen her and you said, "Wow, whose baby is this? She's so white." I knew from there that who Shirletha belonged to.
No.
After I left the hospital with Shirletha, I said, "Shirletha is not your child. You never wanted to listen to me saying that it wasn't your child."
Who's on the birth certificate?
I received the birth certificate. I seen Jesse's name.
Wow, he signed his name on the birth certificate without her knowing? How desperately does he want to be the baby's father? Anyway, Ms. Goggins told the judge that on so many occasions, she told him that the baby was not his, but he just wouldn't listen. He even gave the child his own nickname.
That's why I'm here today, to show people that Lily is.
She doesn't look like you. She looks
and
just
on
like
top of
her
that,
dad.
look, she got my name on that birth certificate. That's my name. She got my name.
You put
I
it on
named
there without
Lily.
my consent.
I gave Lily that name, Lily. That nickname, I done that. Lily was my daughter. That's my nickname. That Shirletha is my family. That's her name from my family.
But it didn't come from you.
It's my people in my family,
No,
though.
it's not.
The back and forth between Mr. Carroll and Ms. Goggins was getting too much, so the judge decided to ask the daughter in question if she had ever felt the presence of Mr. Carroll in her childhood. Here's the reply she gave to the judge.
Your Honor, yes, I have, but to be honest, Jesse haven't been in my life. You know, I'm just going off of pictures. You know, basically, pictures, he was there. He was with me as the father, with me and my sister. He was in the home as a family. But as time went on, I was with the other guy, which I have proof right here. I was with his family.
Well, that complicates the whole situation. At least she told the truth. Ms. Goggins wasn't the only one who believed that he wasn't the father. Mr. Carroll's wife also believed that her husband was not the biological father, and she couldn't understand why he couldn't let go.
Ms. Goggins she told him years ago that she was not his daughter. And the only way I would know, because I came into the situation after the 5-year period, somewhere in there, which was, I never would say anything like that to Shirletha.
But
Why?
she did.
Because I
She
have
did.
my own children.
She
I'm
did.
the one brought us here today because I think she should know.
Now that's one plot twist I didn't see coming. If he isn't the father of your child, why send him a letter thanking him for accepting the child? Something doesn't sound right. Anyways, Judge Lake heard enough of their testimony, so she determined that DNA was vehement in this paternity conflict. Here are the results.
Mr. Carroll, you are her father.
My baby. I know it. I'm trying to. Oh my God! I told you, girl. I told you. You tell the truth. Sorry.
Sometimes, you can only imagine what goes through the minds of some parents to make them make certain decisions. Mr. Harrison was suing the defendant for paternity fraud because he claimed he signed the birth certificate for their child under false pretenses. He also believed the defendant was never faithful throughout their relationship. He opened his case like this.
Mr. Harrison, you are suing the defendant, Ms. Grant, for paternity fraud. You've also petitioned the court to remove your name from the acknowledgement of paternity document for 4-year-old Aaliyah Harrison because you claim you signed it under false pretenses.
Yes, Your Honor.
He couldn't hide his anger at all. He claimed that the man she had an affair with was a friend she had known for over 15 years. Mr. Harrison and baby mama had been together for 8 years, and throughout that period, she was intimate with the other man.
She had this affair with this person for 15 years. I've only been with her for 8. So this goes way before we were ever even together in the first place. So after 8 years with her and a previous child before the one in question, we have already had a child together. So she has been cheating on me literally the entire 8-year span that we were together, including the time of our first child.
So, baby daddy was actually right about the affair going on for a long time. As she could recall, she had known the other man since she was 18 years old. She claimed he helped her with little things like taking care of her first child and sorting out the bills. And on some days, they would kick it in bed, even while she was in a relationship with Mr. Harrison.
Person was a friend of mine. I had met this person when I was 18 years old. I was a single parent of a 2-year-old daughter at the time. He helped me with her. He helped me financially. He has bought cars. He has paid rent. He has paid bills. Okay, when I met Mr. Harrison and I told my friend, I'm in love and we're gonna have a baby.
Baby mama sure knows how to keep a secret, all right. I mean, how do you have a sexual relationship with a friend for 15 years and still maintain a romantic relationship with your boyfriend for 8 years? That takes some real nerve. But in her defense, she claimed she was sleeping with the other guy when she conceived her baby.
But I didn't lie about the paternity. I lied about whether or not I was seeing somebody, but like I said, the person wasn't even in our area at the time.
So you're saying you were not sleeping with this person?
Not at that time, no.
During the time Aaliyah was conceived?
But how am I supposed to ever believe that after an entire 8-year relationship? Aaliyah's only 4 now.
There you have it, baby. Mama has some serious nerve to say something like that after cheating throughout the relationship. Well, guess what? Baby, daddy wasn't a saint either. He also stepped out of the relationship and kicked it in bed with another woman. But all that didn't matter to him. He was just tired of baby mama's lies.
I tried. And it wasn't, I love her and I love my kids so much, you know, that I was willing to bend over backwards and forgive her for all of her misdeeds. All of them.
What about all your misdeeds?
Every single
Don't sit
one
there
of
and
them.
act like you haven't cheated on me.
I'm not saying
He
that.
cheated on me with someone who is, he's an indie pro wrestler. He cheated on me with someone who they call ring rats.
Even though she had been cheating all this while with the other man, she believed deep in her heart that Mr. Harrison was the father of her child. They dive into the argument of the window of conception, and it turns into an all-out war. Here's how it played out.
What day was Aaliyah born?
Her birthday is September 15th of 2010.
September 15th, 2010. If her birthday's September 15th, the dates of conception would be somewhere between December 19th to December 27th.
Yes, ma'am. Her birthday is September 15th.
You say this is a blizzard. This is how you know it could not be the other man's child, is because this man doesn't like the cold.
Took off.
Well, that didn't end nicely. After all the yelling, baby mama changed her story and started to say that all she wanted to do was try to fix her relationship with Mr. Harrison. She admits that what she did was wrong, but she loves Mr. Harrison and hopes they can make it work. Is that even possible after cheating for 8 years?
Right now telling me that I ought to be ashamed of myself for even being here to prove to this man who I am in love with at this very moment, even though he is accusing me of not knowing who the father of my child is, that I ought to be ashamed of myself for wanting to come in front of you and prove to him and the rest of the world that yes, I've done wrong, but I'm willing to admit that and I'm willing to right those wrongs for my children.
Miss Grant, as you stand there and I see how emotional you are when you speak.
Yes, ma'am.
I, for one, don't think they can find their way back after all the lies, but who am I to judge? Anyway, there's no need to try to delay the inevitable. The results are sitting pretty with the judge, and it's time to unveil who the father of the child is.
Mr. Harrison, you are her father.
I told you.
I'm happy.
Good. How do you feel, Ms. Grant?
I feel vindicated, Your Honor. Absolutely. I may have lied about my affair, but I know who the father of my child is.
As far as frustration goes, Mr. Portis had taken enough from his ex-girlfriend. He was in court with his mother to free himself from the accusations that he was the father of his ex-girlfriend's child. He claimed she ruined his life and is not trying to pin the baby on him, even though he's been paying child support.
Mr. Portis, you and your mother have petitioned the court for a DNA test because you are certain you are not the father of the defendant's daughter, Ava.
Correct.
You say your life has been ruined and need today's paternity results to set the record straight. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Isn't he one angry guy? Paying child support for a child you believe is not yours can drive you crazy. Even he couldn't deny that it was kind of his fault. If he had shown up in court, he might have been able to save himself from all the trouble. Anyway, here's where the plot twist to their story thickened.
Last year, Ms. Middlebrooks didn't show up.
No.
Right, because I prefer to do this outside of this. Why do we have to come here for him to finally do a
I went to
DNA
get
test?
swabbed. I did the whole
So-
thing that I was supposed to do, but she didn't do it.
Why couldn't we do it outside of here?
So tell me about the nature of your relationship with Mr. Portis. Were you boyfriend and girlfriend?
We started talking first and then eventually started dating.
As if that wasn't enough to bring down the roof of the courtroom, Ms. Middlebrooks had another boyfriend while she was messing with Mr. Portis. And when he found out, he wasn't going to stick around to find out if he was the father of the child.
After she got pregnant, a letter she sent them.
Wait a minute.
I sent the guy a letter telling him that I was pregnant, letting him know what was going on.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is exactly why young people don't have no business making babies. You can't even tell the story to make no sense.
Right.
Miss Middlebrooks, what was your relationship with this other guy?
We were dating.
When?
Before.
Basically, Ms. Middlebrooks was bouncing from man to man, and when she found out she was pregnant, she decided to tell the other guy about the pregnancy through a letter. Mr. Portis, on the other hand, didn't believe her when she reached out to him and said she was pregnant.
When I found out I was pregnant, I called him. He was distant after I found out.
When was there a relationship? I mean, when were they?
Did I have intercourse with you? Were I with you? No, I didn't think so. Well, nobody talking to you.
So I'm talking to you.
Well, I ain't talking to you.
Hold on, ladies.
I mean, if he didn't believe her about the pregnancy, there was no way he was going to show up for the doctor's appointments and the child's birth. Now, this is where things start to sound mysterious. Mr. Portis wasn't present at the birth, but her ex, whom she told she was pregnant through a letter, was present all the way.
Who was with you at the birth?
My ex was. He stepped up.
Oh, wait.
But she wasn't messing with the ex, though.
Yes. When I had her, yes, he was there.
So he was away, and then by the time you had the baby, he was home.
Yes.
And he was at the hospital.
Yes.
But you gave
And you
my son
say
an
he
opportunity.
stepped up.
Yes.
What?
But
Your son wanted nothing to do with
was
me
holding
or
her
the pregnancy.
and all that.
You do not know. You're not your son.
I wasn't
I'm not
in your
communicating with
business,
you.
but
I'm
I'm
communicating
his
with your
mom.
son.
Uff! Could the situation be any worse in the courtroom? All this while baby mama had been getting child support from Mr. Portis and her ex-boyfriend. At this point, they need to lock her ass in jail, but that was just the beginning of the revelations. There were more secrets, and they popped out like this.
At the time, the only person I knew was the ex.
No, I didn't ask that. That's not what I asked. Who did she say the father was?
She said the ex.
Okay, I already knew that.
Son.
I said the ex.
But I thought it was my son all
No,
along.
hold on.
Now you really
Hold on.
like that?
I could tell by the way you were telling that story that you were trying to be evasive about something.
But
Looks like Ms. Middlebrooks has been the deceiver all this while. She allowed her ex-boyfriend to play the daddy figure role in her child's life, and never allowed Mr. Portis to visit the child. At this point, you can't blame Mr. Portis for choosing to stay away. Her lies and deception have gone to another level.
You let your ex raise the baby? Ava's too. Is he he was at the hospital? You let him raise her?
Yes.
Mr. Portis, I want to understand from your vantage point what's happening. She's pregnant. The ex is there. You're just thinking the ex is the child's father. Do you have any contact? Are you calling to check in? What is your relationship at that point? You just completely moved on?
We weren't talking. She told me to.
Oh well, baby daddy's mom sure doesn't like Ms. Middlebrooks. The sad thing about this case was even if baby daddy ended up not being the father of the child, there was a high chance he would continue to pay child support, and that just wasn't on his agenda.
I was in training for management, and I didn't know that, like, you know what I'm saying, if I was to miss court, it was going to be this big of a situation.
Oh, yes.
Now I know.
Yes.
But I was inexperienced with all this stuff that was going on at the time.
This is and this is exactly why I tell people you're making babies, you got to understand
Correct.
the system.
Yeah, correct.
So we're here now. With all of this drama, there's still a very real possibility you're Ava's father.
Yes.
It was evident that both parties were at daggers drawn, and no one was ready to drop their allegations. Secrets were being revealed in court one after another, but nothing was helping them reveal the truth that was needed. So Judge Lake pulled the strings and decided to announce the result.
Mr. Portis, you are the father. I told you. You are Ava's father.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That is your beautiful little girl.
Appreciate it.
What do you feel, Miss Middlebrooks? Can you tell me?
She knows. Now she knows.
And that's a relief for you.
That's a relief.
Entangled in the romance of being with an older man, Ms. Moyet wasn't only left with having to take care of her little baby girl, but she was also left with a more than shattered heart. Will she get over the heartbreak? Let's find out.
Moyet, you're here in court today to prove that Mr. Lester, a man who is 20 years older than you, is the father of your 3-month-old daughter, Nyla Moyet. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Well, Your Honor, Mr. Lester has hardly been involved in Nyla's life. Besides the fact of 3 cases of diapers.
Things were never all lovey-dovey between Mr. Lester and Ms. Moyet. When she found out she was pregnant, she told Mr. Lester. But was he excited about the baby? Hell no. It was like the baby was gonna spoil all the fun he was having.
When you told him about the pregnancy, what was his reaction, Ms. Moyet?
He was not happy. I actually planned this pregnancy. I went over to his house the day I was ovulating, okay? And I let him know, babe, I'm ovulating. I want to have a baby. We did nothing.
That is not true.
Yeah, we did nothing to prevent Nyla. And to make matters even worse, since I've had Nyla, we still haven't done anything to prevent another one.
Mr. Lester wasn't going to allow her to state the obvious, so he jumped in and called her a big fat lair, stating that all she said was all in her head and they hadn't been intimate in a really long while. Well, I sure saw that coming. He denied it all. But the revelations from Ms. Moyet will leave you in so much shock.
That's a lie. And now, it's not, Yana, we've had sex since I've had my daughter 5 times. I've counted.
That's not true.
Well, she's only 3 months old.
Exactly.
And
yesterday when you had sex, did you use protection?
Yeah.
No.
Mr. Lester isn't being nice to Ms. Moyet at all in the courtroom. He kept emphasizing the fact that he didn't want a relationship with Ms. Moyet. He said he just wanted to have a good time. But Ms. Moyet was insistent on having a baby for him. Now, who's telling the truth? I'm pretty confused at this point.
I did want a sexual relationship without being in a committed relationship. I did want that, and she agreed to it.
I agreed to it in the beginning, and when he told me that he loved me, it opened me up to the fact that, well, maybe it could be. I mean, my background is not the best as far as me and my father.
It was war in that courtroom. The things that were coming out of both Mr. Lester and Ms. Moyet's mouths were just very unbelievable. Even Judge Lauren was very confused as she couldn't add up what they were saying.
You're 45 years old.
Absolutely.
So when a woman says to you, I want to have your baby, and you say, no, I really don't want you to, and you're still having sex without protecting yourself, you're setting yourself up.
I've only had sex with Iris for 5 times.
That's a lie. You've never used
Your
a
Honor.
condom. Now, with the girls that he's cheating on me with.
Mr. Lester, who never wanted to have a kid with Ms. Moyet, stated that he had doubts that the baby was his. Was he being delusional? I mean, he was basically sleeping with Ms. Moyet without using protection. Trust me, people, these two are nuts.
Boyfriend that's better than me, and I asked her, well, why you calling me tonight? Her response to me was, I could do both of y'all. I could do him Monday and do you Tuesday.
Yana, that's a lie. Let me tell you, that's a lie, Yana.
Thirdly, I come by, I see her with the same guy over and over and over again.
The neighborhood guy.
The neighborhood guy, yes.
Well, it's finally time to uncover the truth after so many lies and deceptions. The day of reckoning is finally here, with everyone itching to know the truth. Are you ready to find out? I bet you are. So take a deep breath, because here it comes.
Mr. Lester, you are Nyla's father.
Yes! Yes!
Ma'am.
Ma'am. Didn't I tell you?
Ma'am.
Didn't I tell you?
You need to be respectful.
Didn't I tell you?
Ma'am.
I understand you're upset. Use proper language.
Mr. Jones and Ms. Dolis have to be the funniest couple on the paternity court show. Their love story bounces from cheating to lying to deceiving. You just name it. From one charade to the next, these two find themselves in court, dragging each other for who is the better parent. Buckle up, people. You're about to be dumbfounded by this couple's drama.
All right, Ms. Douglas, you are suing the father of your 5 children for a paternity test. You claim at times the defendant, Mr. Jones, doesn't treat your daughter, Cheyenne, as his own, and that he has always been suspicious that he's not her biological father. You admit that you kept a secret from him and you cheated on him with his cousin.
Getting down into the bits of this drama, right from the beginning of the case, Ms. Dolis admitted to cheating on Mr. Jones. She apparently slept with his cousin. Now that's all shades of crazy if you ask me. Here's the shocking thing. Mr. Jones was no saint. He was also cheating on her with her own cousin and one of his baby mamas. I would have lost my mind if I were the judge, honestly.
You admit to cheating. Do you believe the defendant has reason to doubt paternity of Cheyenne?
Yes, Your Honor, I do, because I did make a mistake. I slept with his cousin and the condom had broke. But before that, Tyrone was downstairs sleeping with my cousin. He was still having sex with his baby's mom.
Just like in the movies, Mr. Jones and Mrs. Douglas met at a party. Things got pretty freaky and interesting after that, and they ended up getting pretty intimate. Well, I saw that coming. Prepare to be wowed. After her cozy night with Mr. Jones, she met his cousin, and voila, she went down on him too. How does that even happen?
It got good. I met Tyrone actually at a party that happened downstairs in my building. I met him and his cousin almost the same night. Me and Tyrone got together the first night we watched movies. The next night we did have sex, but we weren't together. We just had sex, and after that he went back to his other baby's mom. And then I met his cousin, and I slept with his cousin, but we weren't together.
Things were starting to get heated up in the courtroom, with both of them staring into each other's eyes like it was about to be a bloodbath. Boom! Ms. Dolis gets pregnant. Ring, ring, ring. She hits up and tells Mr. Jones that it's his baby. Things seem pretty nice, right? Well, let's burst some bubbles.
I mean, sort of. We actually wasn't in a relationship at the time when she slept with my cousin, but she basically just denied doing it up until the point. That's the reason we here now.
Okay. What did you feel, Mr. Jones, when you heard Ms. Douglas say, "I'm pregnant and it's yours"?
I wasn't too sure about it when she told me, but I'm like, okay, when she did tell me, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna step up and do what I gotta do.
She finally decides to open up 2 damn years later, telling Mr. Jones that she had a thing with his cousin. You could see the rage in his eyes, wondering where and how it all went down. Just like that, good baby daddy starts to play the role of, I'm not sure this is my kid. I did tell you things were going to escalate.
Everything. How long did it take you to tell the truth?
After my daughter was 2 years old.
Okay, so you are in this, are you in a committed relationship?
No.
You just going along for the baby's sake.
But when I was pregnant, he didn't care. He did not care at all.
Did you care?
I mean, I cared, but it was just to the point to where when I met her, she was pregnant by another guy who was actually incarcerated at the time, but she was also messing around with another guy.
Slowly, all hell starts to break loose. Ms. Dolis spills the beans about Mr. Jones, telling the court how he wasn't there for her daughter and that he was taking care of his other kids with his baby mama. Yup, you had that right. Other kids. It's already a whole mess at this point. Everyone's asking, who's really telling the truth?
When the baby was 2, he went to Chicago with his other's baby mama. We were together then, and I'm pregnant with his son. He went to Chicago. We didn't hear from him for about 4 months. Didn't call check up on his daughter, didn't call check up on the pregnancy or nothing. How I knew he was in Chicago with his baby mama was she texted my phone like, "Oh, you're looking for your man? He's with me. You wonder why he's not calling your daughter? Because he's with me." That's how I knew he was in Chicago.
Emotions are flying here and there. Hold your seats for another bombshell, people. Trust me, your ears aren't ready for this. This couple had other kids before their daughter, and they aren't even married. Are these two a baby factory, or what's going on with them?
You all 5 children potentially together. Was your relationship ever committed? Was it ever an important thing to either one of you? Are we just making babies? Is it a baby factory? What is it?
It's clear that these two had no trust for each other. Even after having more than 1 child together, they can't seem to bring themselves to trust each other. Why would they? I mean, after getting intimate with each other's cousins. That's beyond a far stretch.
Even after child number 2, you think he's cheating?
Yeah. I just had my twins 7 months ago. He's still talking to women. I don't never talk to anybody first. After I find out he cheats on me, me, that's when I do it. But I really do want to be with him, and I want to make a family for my 5 kids.
Now, Ms. Douglas, you just keep saying, okay, now see, I do not believe in cheating. I do not believe in cheating. But when he does this, then I go do that.
Everything went from a peaceful conversation to a bloodbath, with the couples throwing tantrums about who got intimate with whom and who couldn't be a good parent. Well, the moment of truth is finally here. Every single eye is placed on the judge as she's about to reveal the final verdict. Hold your breath.
Mr. Jones, you are not fired.
She knew this from the beginning. Now I'm embarrassed, gotta face public humiliation because she didn't want to be honest before we came here.
Your Honor, I didn't know. I didn't even know the kind of busted. Man, now my daughter ain't gonna have a dad.
This almost felt like betrayal on Mr. Patterson's path. After taking care of the baby and making sure he was present every day of the kid's life, Ms. Knight wakes up one morning and says, he isn't the father. We're about to dive into a tale of delusion. Grab your pie and enjoy the ride.
Opened your case today to prove that you are 4-year-old DeMarcus Patterson Jr.'s biological father. You named him and have cared for your junior since birth and are furious the defendant now claims another man is his father. Is this correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
We are about to enter the domain of questionable romance, where these guys' relationship isn't exactly a fairy tale. It is a saga involving 2 men, a lady, and a 4-year-old boy.
You know, since he came out the womb, since he entered this world, when the doctor first, held him up and finally gave him to him, I witnessed him just completely quit crying and looked me dead in my eyes, and that's when, at that moment, I knew I became someone's father. So at that moment, like all the doubts that we had before, I just knew like they were just out the window and just it was gonna leave us a happy family.
Well, the doubts and reservations were running pretty deep over here, but no worries, cause baby daddy went on a long rant explaining why he had his doubts. And boy, did he bag some solid points.
Yes, Your Honor, in a way. When she first told me she was pregnant, that's when we was like, I guess you could say doing the house hopping thing, cause like in order
doing the what?
The house hopping thing, cause when she moved out of her parents' house, she ain't had nowhere to go, so let her live there too.
I mean, that's how we started our relationship. We were together every day since then. DeMarcus ended up cheating on me within the time we were together, and I ended up leaving.
Things started to take a different turn as the truth started to unfold. Ms. Knight was not a faithful partner. The tension started to fill the courtroom, and even Judge Lauren was amazed by the things she heard. Yup, they were crazy.
Which is the other possible father.
Right. We ended up having protected sex that night, and then we ran out of condoms, and while we were doing it, I told him to go ahead and get me pregnant. That's what I told him. And as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I called DeMarcus and let DeMarcus know, I'm pregnant right now, and it's a possibility that it's Ladarius's baby or your baby. DeMarcus told me to come home.
So you got back together with Mr. Patterson.
Because me and Ladarius were like oil and water, and we could not do it.
Ms. Knight finds out she's pregnant. Well, that's not surprising. Accusations start flying about the courtroom like it's a competition. They go on making a fuss about what to name the baby. It turns into a whole charade, and no one can make any sense of what's going on. The question I keep asking is how they even became a couple.
DeMarcus looked over, said, that's my baby. We ain't naming him no Christian. We naming him DeMarcus Patterson.
Did you say that, Mr.?
That ain't exactly how it happened.
How'd it go?
When I looked the baby in the eyes, I was like, dang, he just completely just be quiet, just quit crying, everything like he was at peace. And I looked at her, and that's when the doctors left the room. She was like, what name should we give him? I was like, oh no. She said, I always wanted a junior, and I was like, you'll do that?
There's a whole lot of craziness going on right now. As things go on, Judge Lauren starts to dig a little deeper. She starts to find out the most shocking things. And when I say shocking, trust me, your jaws are going to drop.
Does DeMarcus Jr. call Mr. Patterson daddy?
Yeah. OJ turned about 3 months, and I looked at him one time, and I was like, wow, he kind of looked like Ladarius.
Oh, so you all were open about this?
Yes, we were always open. We would take rides to the gas station. He'd show me pictures of Ladarius, like, you sure this ain't that?
Their stories stopped making sense and adding up. It sounded like they were being made up, and Judge Lauren just wasn't having it anymore. She asked the other man in the picture to step into the courtroom, and my God, did he have a lot to say.
In the midst of me and Kaylin having dealings or intimacy, I was the one who told her she was pregnant. And when I told her she was pregnant, she said, well, if you feel like that, take me to the clinic. So I did. So when we got back from that situation, we had conflict. She like, it could possibly be his. It could possibly be yours. So therefore now, like she say, oil and water.
Now this is where it all gets really messed up. When I say messed up, I mean really, really messed up. The 4-year-old boy calls both men daddy. How does a kid call 2 different men daddy? This really is a baby daddy war.
One thing about this young man, if don't nobody else love me, he gonna love me.
And so, Mr. Patterson, I have to ask you, how do you feel knowing that your son is calling another man daddy too?
Be honest,
I used to think about it hard back in the days, but it's her mess. She got to clean it up. That's what we're here for today, you know?
It's all of your mess.
Yeah.
Because if you're not the father, this 4-year-old young boy has your name.
Hold your breath now, paternity folks, because the DNA test results are ready to be revealed. Tension was escalating, emotions were running high, and the truth was about to hit like a plot twist. Who's the real baby daddy? Let's see.
The biological father is Mr. Sigler. You are DJ's biological father. What do you feel right now?
Hurt. Could have been avoided.
It could have been avoided.
I love that little boy right there. I know he's gonna be happy. You can bring him out right now, he's gonna run straight to me.
The doubts start to troll in and all hell starts to break loose. This frantic dad wants answers to the paternity puzzle that's been digging holes in his mind. Is he gonna get the answers he's looking for? Well, let's find out, shall we? It's about to be another bumpy ride of baby daddy drama.
Mr. Pickett, you claimed that when your son turned 3, the defendant, your wife, admitted to you that you may not be his biological father. You have petitioned the court for a paternity test, seeking a definitive answer today with hopes that your son is biologically yours.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Pickett and Ms. Pickett sure do look like the cute couples we expect them to be, but hold up, there's more to see than meets the eye. These two have been caught up in so much baby drama. Guess what, people? They're even separated. Must have been one hell of a ride for these two.
Family. Now let the court clarify, you two are separated right now. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Pickett, why are you so sure you are not Patrick's father?
I took an extended vacation, let's call it, right? And during that vacation, you know, we had separated.
Don't forget, these two have been separated for a while. Mr. Pickett takes a vacation for work purposes, at least so he claims. He gets back from his vacation and pays a visit to Ms. Pickett to check on their son. That's when things start to get a little tricky. Trust me, you aren't ready for the mystery that's about to unfold.
So I asked my son, I said, who is that guy over there that be's at the house with your mom? And my son, he's like 5 years old. Little kid, he says, I think that's my mom's boyfriend. I'm like, for real? So I ask her, she denies it. Now, I hate these extended vacations, Your Honor. I took another one, mind you.
Can't stand them.
Can't stand it. Now, this extended vacation.
Mr. Pickett, with the Mr. Innocent role, continues to explain his side of the story. And for some reason, it just doesn't make any sense. It's so confusing that Judge Lauren tells him to back it up. The things that popped out of his mouth were totally mind-blowing.
Wait, no, I don't feel you. Back it up.
I'm gonna back it up.
Say it again.
Her friend was dating my friend. He told me that the other guy that was there was for Shanae. So
it was one of those type things.
It was one of those type of things. Now this extended vacation is over. I'm back again. I'm playing daddy. I have no problem with playing daddy. I love my kids. That's why I'm here today. I love these little guys. Let's just speed it up just a little bit.
After being apart for God knows how long, they decide to give it another try and get back together. Yup, we all know where that's leading. Of course, things seem to be okay at first, but soon after it all turns into wildfire. Things spiral out of control, and trust me when I tell you, it's worse than you can imagine.
In the back of my mind, I wish I could blow this little thought out.
So you're back together?
We back. It's cool. Swimming pools on the side of the house, everything's good.
Okay.
So I ask her. She denies. I ask her, she denies.
What do you ask her?
I'm asking her, is these my kids? Is this my son? Have you been cheating? You know, I love you. I quit cheating. And you can ask the girls, they be like, man, I'm going home.
The little mysteries start to find their way out of the little corners, and things start to take an unexpected turn. Mr. Pickett finds out that his wife was getting intimate with another guy just before his kid was born. Oops! Things are about to get real juicy, guys, I can bet on it.
If you're a real man, you will take the blame of your family being in any kind of disaster or anything like that.
So, let me recap your doubts. She admitted to an affair, number one.
Right.
While you were gone, you had no idea what she was doing. You know there might have been something going on.
Your Honor,
and then she admitted to it.
I called on that phone.
This guy had to be the most dramatic man to ever walk the planet Earth. At every single junction of his narration, there was always a hilarious reaction from him. Even Judge Lauren couldn't hide her amusement. Now hold up, all that laughter was about to turn into a real hot mess.
I went away on vacation, I let my family down. I left you out here.
Right.
You made some mistakes, so in the end, I'm gonna forgive you.
Yes.
That's what you were saying to her.
It's over, I'm gonna let it go.
And I'm gonna let it go, and we're gonna try to put this marriage back together.
Based on the fact that I wanna be this little dude's, his son, his father, his son. Because when I'm old and I need him, he'll be there for me.
Now, Ms. Pickett wasn't having her best day in court, trust me. You could read it off her face that she couldn't wait for the ground to open up and just swallow her. But come on, she cheated. I mean, it's only right right that she felt that way, but is Mr. Pickett in a forgiving mood? I strongly doubt that.
So, what do you have to add to this? Do you believe what Mr. Pickett is saying, that he's a forgiving man, he's made mistakes?
No. First of all, Brandon never forgave her for anything she's done. He loves his kids dearly. He wants to be with them all the time. He has them now, but he's never forgiven her. He's never given her a chance for anything. Like, she can't work, she can't social with people, she can't do nothing.
You saying he's controlling?
He's very controlling.
Now, they got into another argument about the process of trying to rebuild their family. The only issue now was Mr. Pickett was still sleeping around with other women. How on earth were they going to make it work if he was doing that?
How does cheating or sleeping with other women, if you don't consider it cheating,
if she not wanting to be with me,
rebuild the marriage?
If like you asked are you guys separated? Yes, we both said. I don't want to be alone. Who does? If we're not in agreement that we want to be lovers and friends, and you want to let your sister is talking more than you control your life, then I have to find somebody else that's going to love me and my children, because I'm here for love of family.
So because she's speaking up for me.
Well, the suspense is finally over, and the hassle of who the dad of their child is about to be revealed. It's been a bumpy and funny ride with Mr. Pickett and Ms. Pickett. All eyes are on the judge as she unleashes the truth. Get ready, paternity folks.
Mr. Pickett, you are his father.
Oh, yeah. Look, I got something for you. Hold on. See, it's straight up. It's straight up. I'm good.
Now you were about to get tackled by Jerome.
Mrs. Garcia and Mr. Johnson were lifelong friends for over 2 decades. But guess what? The man had been keeping a secret from her for all these years. A secret that could rock their friendship to its core. And it did, as he claimed he was her real father. A roller coaster of emotions coming right up, people.
I've always wanted to have a father. My father was very abusive, and I watched my mother go through a second marriage with the same type of abuse. So I've always felt close to Rusty, and I never knew why. I never could understand this feeling, that was always there with him. So today, if it's true, I want to know it.
Who knew a night visit in Lake Isabel would turn out to be a night to remember? That is exactly what happened between the baby mama and the alleged baby daddy. The defendant took care of a stranger he found in a vulnerable situation, but he ended up taking care of her a lot more. Oh yeah!
I picked her up and put her in the truck and cleaned her up, and she said, I can't go home until I know that he's in bed passed out.
And what happens?
Well, got to talking, one thing led to another, and sex was involved.
And that was the last time you heard from her for 28 years?
Right.
Well, after that one night, it was a total no-show for 28 years. Yeah, you heard that right. But fear not, mates, as fate was once again on their side. And these people ended up meeting again. Though Miss Garcia instantly felt a connection to him, which only now made sense to her. But by then, vows were already made to keep secrets hidden.
Her mother says what to you?
She said, that is your daughter that followed me in, and I don't want you telling her anything until I pass away.
How do you get to the point where you decide, I'm no longer going to keep this secret?
I asked her to sit down and I want to talk to her, and I explained everything.
Now, they kept the secret for all these years, but then the baby mama passed away. So the baby daddy wasn't bound by that vow anymore. And guess what he did? Yep, he dropped a bombshell. Moreover, he even included the supposed daughter in his will. I mean, what? And that was precisely the reaction of his family as well.
Your family is not completely pleased that you've included Ms. Garcia in your will. Is that correct?
Right.
And Ms. Garcia, your sister, doubts that Mr. Johnston is in fact your father.
Yes, she does. I was under the assumption that my mother told him right before she died, which was in 2009. I just found out today.
With bated breath, the moment of truth was upon them. The years of secrecy were finally over, and real answers were about to be delivered. Was keeping that secret worth it or not? We are about to find out.
When it comes to Cindy Lee Garcia, Mr. Johnston, you are not her father.
This young lady is very important to me. I love her. She is my child. And as far as anything goes on my part, if she needs me, I'm there.
While Miss Sheets had spent her whole life believing 2 possible men had the potential of being her father, The defendant, on the other hand, just got wind of this news pretty recently. Talk about the shock of a lifetime, right? And now these guys were here to get to the bottom of this paternity mess.
I've been with her since she was born, 35 years, and embedded in my heart.
So it is up to the court whether or not there is sufficient evidence to order a paternity test. Why do you need the court to grant this test?
I know Mr. Rhodes as my father initially, but after the breakup of my parents, she introduced me to Mr. Smith.
Now, the plaintiff spent her whole life playing the who is my daddy game between these two guys. It's like a sitcom where everyone's the dad. And no one's the dad, but all was happening in the same episode. And even having the two possibilities, the birth certificate still had no father listed. Nada!
Now, you submitted to the court a copy of your birth certificate, your name listed under the child's name, and under father's name, there's no one listed.
Right, I never was given just a clear definition of, hey, this is your father, this is not. I was told both were. Both were at one time, and I was told, at one time one wasn't and one was.
Cue the emotions, people, because we were moving on to the devastation of the father. For 30 plus years, this man believed she was his daughter. And then, bam! The said daughter demanded a paternity test. Well, his world got truly rocked, and why wouldn't it, since all that popping in and out of the life of baby mama caught up to him now?
Someone wanted a paternity test because they thought you weren't their biological father, and that person was the young woman you believed to be your daughter.
Yes, Shauna, I did.
What did you feel like when you got that call?
I'm confident and I know this is my daughter. It's very confusing, but the natural feeling that I have is this my daughter and can't nobody tell me nothing else.
Well, since the baby daddy never questioned paternity till now, he stood up to his fatherly duties, all thanks to Grandma. But you wouldn't believe it when I said that the other potential baby daddy stepped up too. Yeah, no kidding. Talk about the confusion of a lifetime, right?
I remember her looking at me like, who are you? And I didn't really pay no attention, but I felt it, that she was confused. But I said, no, from my grandmother telling me this is my child, I've been embedded in me. I'm gonna love this child and take care of the best I can, regardless of what's going on. Because one day when she's grown, I'll be able to tell the story and let her know that I loved her since birth.
If you thought that was the end of the confusing mess, you are so mistaken, my friends, because Miss Sheets just delivered more. It seemed both guys visited her on and off, and she referred to both of them as Dad. Seriously, woman? Now, add a dash of teenage confusion and ding ding ding, you've got a recipe for a tangled web of paternity uncertainty.
You called both of them Dad?
I did, yes, Your Honor. I didn't know, about tests, DNA tests. I didn't know, I just felt like this should have been done, by the adults in my life. I just can't let this go on any longer. I have to know.
4 years old, you don't know anything. But when you get 13 or you get in school and everybody's got one dad.
Yes.
By the looks of it, the baby daddy did know that other players were in the game as well, but his focus was still on the baby mommy. So much so he came back from serving and had plans to marry the woman. But in a twist of fate, mommy had made other plans by then. Furthermore, when the daughter demanded some answers from the mother, there was none. And the conception window didn't help either.
Did you ever ask your mom?
She just kind of didn't give me a straight answer. I never got a straight answer. I tried to get one. All three of us sat down together.
Really?
Yes, and they tried to calculate conception, and they just couldn't quite get it together. But my question was, why did he pay child support my entire life until I was 18?
Let's stir up the confusion, Gravy, even more, shall we? Because we were on this train and we have to see it through. Unfortunately, the other baby daddy had also passed away. His son was there to shed some light on this mess. Well, he knew the plaintiff for a decade, and his father told him the truth at one point as well. Wow!
I actually went to her house a couple of times and we talked, and through life we lost contact. And after that, I sat down with my dad and I asked him seriously, is this my sister? And he was the kind of guy who, he joked around, he was very animated, but he very firmly and strongly looked me in the eyes and said, yeah, I believe that this is your sister, my daughter.
Moving on, we got to see poor Mr. Garcia trying desperately to make sense of this chaotic paternity mess. It was clear he wanted to be a father to the plaintiff, but the presence of the other guy made it difficult as heck. So much so he could have faced jail time.
Ouch!
And I always knew a black cloud was over my head with her because I said, this is my daughter. Why can't I go get her and take her to Chicago and raise her? You know, I would come to town to see her, everybody looking at me strange. They would never let me take her to go to the store to get her school clothes. They told me, no, go get them and bring them back. I was never able to spend time with her because I'm nothing. He had his name on her.
Judge Lake ended up granted the paternity test. Well, frankly, the whole confusion was screaming for it. It was finally time to wrap up this 3-decade mystery and sort out the paternity mess for once and all. Here we go!
It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Rhodes.
Really? Oh my!
I hear you saying, Miss Sheets, you so happy. It's good to see you smile. I don't think I saw you smile last time we saw you.
A long-lost father was finally ready to step up to the role of fatherhood. However, it was too late now, according to Miss Washington. Mr. Alexander decided to reconnect after 29 long years. But the daughter wasn't having it. The baby daddy took his sweet time taking this decision.
So, how did it feel when you finally heard this young woman's voice?
I felt real good, because I had my daughter search for it and went on Facebook to find it, and I was so happy that I finally got in touch with my daughter.
So, Miss Washington, I see the tears in your eyes, honey.
He contacted me at 29. Like, you missed out. If I was, you would have been there, not at 29.
Miss Washington recounted the day she first heard of Mr. Alexander in like ever, and it wasn't the Hallmark reunion the guy was hoping for. Oh no, it was a 29-year late phone call. But what was even more frustrating was that the guy just popped in, dropped this bomb, and then went MIA again. Yeah, the nerve of this man.
One night my phone rang. He's like, I'm looking for Tish, and I'm like, who is this? And he's like, I'm your dad. I told him I never heard of him before. He mentioned my granddaddy and my grandma, but I'm 29. Where have you been? My mom passed, he wasn't there. My granddaddy, my grandma passed, he wasn't there. And then he got to talking to me, and I'm like, but where have you been? I'm 29.
Now, the defendant had no clue about this baby daddy. But wait, she had known another was a possible candidate when she was 18. And she took it upon herself to get to the bottom of this paternity issue then, and went to meet the said guy, but only to receive disappointment and hurt in the end.
She was telling me the whole time that that was my father, and he wanted to meet up. I had to catch the city bus to go meet him. We sat down, and he was like, he didn't know, but he had a wife and kids already, and he didn't want to mess that up. So I was like, I'm ready to go, and I never saw him or talked to him again.
Shedding some light on how these guys met initially, Mr. Alexander brought along a witness. And the said witness played matchmaker way back in 1976. And James, aka Mr. Alexander, ended up in the same social brew with Miss Gladys. However, the baby mama soon pulled a no-show afterwards, and so the mess began.
James had left me and went somewhere else. He didn't work at my new location, okay? So the next time I hear James, he's all proud. He said, man, have you seen Gladys? I said, no, I haven't. He said, I got a baby by her. So he was excited and happy, but hurt that he couldn't find her.
But it is your testimony that he was looking for his little girl.
He was.
Oh, ma'am.
He talked about her.
Oh, ma'am.
He talked about this young lady here.
Dear Lord, the woman couldn't catch a break. Miss Washington had no father growing up. Then she lost her mother. If that wasn't enough, she got terminally ill, and at this point, she was in desperate need of a family. But the said baby daddy was heck of a lot difficult to get a hold of.
When I was going through cancer, I didn't have nobody. My mom not here, but then I was trying to get in contact with him because I needed a donor for my transplant, and he wasn't nowhere to be found because we was like on and off with, contacting each other.
Okay.
And so for me to contact him, I have to go through his one daughter in Alabama. She used to call me asking me if I know where he was. So I'm like, no.
Moving on, the defendant gets in contact with Mr. Alexander, and they get a DNA test done on their own. But the laboratory ended up mixing it up and made them wait 3 weeks instead of 3 days. Wow, the Lady Luck was surely not in their favor.
In 2 to 3 days, they'll let us know. 3 weeks went by.
You had to call her back?
Yes.
And then she says, I'm sorry, he's not your father.
Yes.
Do you remember her telling you that they called back and the lab said that you were not her biological father?
Yes, Your Honor, I remember that. And we both felt that it was an undecided decision that they made on their behalf because it just didn't seem right.
As the courtroom drama unfolds further, we get to know that the defendant's transplant might hinder the DNA results being conclusive. But leave it to the judge to get a professional opinion about it. And so, Dr. Michael Bard, the DNA expert, took the stand and dropped a bombshell about the bone marrow transplant. And that led to the defendant being way too honest.
What are you hoping for, Mr. Alexander? And are you hoping that Miss Washington is your biological daughter? Are some of the tears because you feel guilty for all the years that you missed out on?
Yes, to a certain extent, it is that, Your Honor. I'm
Do
feeling
you
guilty.
feel like you let her down?
Yes, I do, Your Honor, to a certain extent.
I don't want them to be now.
It was time to untangle this decades-old paternity saga and reach the final chapter of it. That being the DNA results. The potential daddy-daughter duo were certainly hoping for different outcomes. Let's see which way the dice rolls.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Alexander, you are not the father. Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Bosley and his mom are pissed at the defendant, Miss Jackson. After being cheated on multiple times, there was no way he was going to accept Miss Jackson's son. But things got very messy very quickly.
Ms. Bosley, you and your son have petitioned the court for a DNA test because you are certain he did not father the defendant's 3-month-old son, Maverick, and there are 2 other possible fathers. Ms. Jackson, you admit to cheating with another man, but claim to be certain that Mr. Bosley is Maverick's biological father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So Ms. Jackson had already admitted to cheating on Mr. Bosley, but she still insisted that he was the father to her 3-month-old son. And every time you see the plaintiff standing next to his mom, you already know how heated things will get.
I feel like my son made a terrible decision by signing a birth certificate. I don't want my son to have to go through life wondering if this is his child or not.
Mr. Bosley, you signed a birth certificate, even though you had doubts?
I did sign the birth certificate. Not saying it wasn't the right thing, it was stupid.
Bingo! Like we said, moms always heat up the courtroom, whichever side of the stand they're on. Mr. Bosley's mom, Mrs. Bosley, was actually the one who opened the case against Ms. Jackson. According to her, Mr. Bosley wasn't supposed to sign the baby's birth certificate, but guess what? He already did. Mr. Bosley recognized that he wasn't supposed to sign the birth certificate that fast, and he was in court to prove it.
In the beginning, we were working together, and he was starting off like, oh, I love you. Do you believe in love at first sight? And then the next day we was talking, and then we had sex. And then he was talking about, the kids and all of that. And then I asked for a break because we were moving too fast. I already said that we was moving too fast at the beginning.
Oh, well, would you look at that? Mr. Bosley was the one who initiated the relationship. And to make matters worse, he was moving at light speed. With talk of love at first sight and making babies, Ms. Jackson got scared. Who wouldn't? She actually decided to take a break from Mr. Bosley since things were moving way too fast for her.
You do sleep with him?
Yes, I had my own place at that time, and I moved him in. Then that's when the cheating, I made my mistake of that 2 weeks of me not knowing if this is real or not.
Ms. Jackson may have tried to exit their relationship quickly, but she just couldn't match up with Mr. Bosley's speed. They'd known each other for only 2 weeks before Ms. Jackson invited Mr. Bosley to move in with her. These weren't baby steps, folks. They were steps to a baby.
What happened? You tell me, because I can't get it out of Mr. Bosley.
I had gave oral sex to this person.
What man will believe that she only gave you oral sex?
This is exactly why y'all don't have no business, young, running around here, using sex like it's like an extracurricular act.
Mr. Bosley and Miss Jackson weren't actually a couple when they decided to move in together. But Mr. Bosley was still protective of Miss Jackson, even though he admitted not being in a relationship at the time. So when she talked to a random guy, he was peeking out of windows and trying to listen through doors to figure out what was going on. And before he could even say what he found out, Miss Jackson dropped the news like a bomb. She was giving oral sex to this random guy.
So Miss Jackson, when you found out you were pregnant, you told Mr. Bosley?
Yes, Your Honor. And then he was like, oh, wow, you are. You know, he was excited about the situation.
And y'all had known each other all of 2 months then, and y'all was excited?
It wasn't 2 months, it was a month.
It was a month?
Yep.
No, I wasn't excited. The 2 guys she cheated on me with, those was the guys that we worked together with.
Oh, so all of you all co-workers?
Yes, we all was co-workers.
This case must have been a clown car because people just kept popping out. So within just a month of knowing each other, Ms. Jackson revealed to Mr. Bosley that she was pregnant. According to her, he was super excited when he heard the news. But according to him, well, you already know how that goes. He also mentioned that the 2 men that Ms. Bosley cheated on him with were actually their CO workers. That must have been a pretty busy workplace.
Your Honor, I only cheated on him once. And that's with the person that was at work. But I did have sex with one other person that was there at the job. And that was the person that came to the house. The other person that I didn't have oral sex or
This is a mess. This is a mess.
Yeah.
Miss Jackson wasn't having it though. She denied having cheated with 2 guys. But in the same sentence, she admitted to having cheated on Mr. Bosley with 2 guys. Confused? I know. So are we. Judge Lake thinks that this is a mess. And who can disagree? She might have dug her own grave with one fumbled testimony.
It just adds up that she has slept with 3 men on her job. There should be no young woman out here sleeping with 3 men at her job. And that's why I'm like, what's going on here?
It's getting hot in the courtroom. It's rare to see Judge Lake get this mad at someone, but you can totally understand where she's coming from. Sleeping with 3 men isn't too crazy, but having sex with 3 men that you work with is downright insane. You can see the shame slowly creep in for Miss Jackson.
If you have slept with 2 co-workers, given oral sex to one, while you supposedly getting to know Mr. Bosley, no, it's not so far-fetched that people would also assume that you may have slept with that person or maybe even another person. Because there is no reason a beautiful young girl like yourself.
Cue the waterworks. After a stern lecture from Judge Lake, Ms. Jackson burst into tears. The judge just can't figure out why a young, beautiful woman would be so promiscuous with her own co-workers. She also gave a few words to both Ms. Jackson and Mr. Bosley for messing around and getting kids at such a young age.
Actually, how the situation went about, I was in her phone one day. I had seen the dude and I said, he looked just like my son. I'm like, what? Like,
Your Honor, he sent me that picture. And immediately, just in all honesty, I was like, that's not your son.
And Mom, once you got that picture, you believe this other man is the father.
Things were only getting worse for Miss Jackson. Mr. Bosley revealed a picture of one of their co-workers side by side with a picture of Miss Jackson's son. On top of that, he also showed some provocative text messages between Miss Jackson and that co-worker. And oh boy, did those light up the courtroom.
What's your relationship with Miss Jackson?
We met through a friend, and then we started talking through social media.
Was Miss Jackson interested in a sexual relationship with you?
Yes, Your Honor, she was trying to have sex.
So do you believe you are Maverick's biological father?
No, I don't. I just came here to prove that I'm not.
That's a lot to unpack. So when the co-worker in question, Mr. Green, was welcomed into the courtroom, his testimony pretty much aligned with everything we knew so far. He had been sexually involved with Ms. Jackson. Mr. Bosley was also given some harsh words by his mother for his irresponsibility. It was all coming to a boil, and it was finally time to admit if one or neither of the 2 men were the father.
The biological father is Mr. Bosley. Your son.
Okay.
Your biological son.
Well, it's off my chest. That's all I came here for. That's all I wanted.
We've got another mom collaboration on our hands. Both the plaintiff and the defendant are accompanied by their mothers, and the guy's mom is about to find out if she's a grandma to the defendant's 1-month-old daughter.
Mr. Hodges, you and your mom opened your case today because you both say the defendant is a liar and a cheater. Ms. Willard, you too are here with your mother, and the two of you testify that you are 1,000% sure Mr. Hodges fathered your daughter. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So Mr. Hodges doesn't think that Ms. Willard's daughter is his, and neither does his mom. On the other side of the aisle, Ms. Willard is positive that Mr. Hodges is her daughter's father, and you guessed it, so does her mom.
Cheated on me, and I caught her with multiple guys. She had one hidden in the room, and whenever we first got together, she said that she would never hurt me or cheat on me. She would be truthful.
Wow, that got heated so fast you would swear there was a blowtorch in the courtroom. Mr. Hodges claims that Ms. Willard is a liar and a cheater, and apparently he's caught her multiple times with different men.
I had a guy over at my house, yes. He was visiting because he was a childhood friend. I didn't tell him because I knew he'd flip out because I know how he is.
Oh, you met her after she had a one-night stand with another guy, and then she cried on your shoulder. And then you and she got together.
Yes, Your Honor.
So Ms. Willard had her defense locked and loaded, so when the judge asked her to give her testimony, she was ready! According to her, the guy she hid from Mr. Hodges was actually her childhood friend, and the only reason she hid him was because she knew how angry Mr. Hodges would get. But according to Mr. Hodges, Ms. Willard is a serial liar. So will her testimony hold up against Mr. Hodges' accusations?
You are the one who pushed your son to open this case.
Yes, Your Honor.
And why did you do that?
Because I knew that she had been cheating on him. He had caught her with another guy that she said was a friend, but yet he was hidden in her house when my son got there.
You found him hiding in the house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Hiding in the house where?
In her mother's bedroom.
Yup! The couple was engaged when all this drama was unraveling. Mr. Hodges' mom pressured her son to open the case against Miss Willard because she knew that Ms. Willard was cheating on Mr. Hodges. But were her motherly instincts right or wrong? They seemed to be right so far, since Ms. Willard had already admitted to hiding her childhood friend in her mom's room. And get this, her mom was in on it too. Ms. Willard's mom chimed in on all the action, stating that the only reason she helped hide the guy was that she knew that Mr. Hodges had a really bad temper. But hey, someone with a monk's temperament would flip out too if that happened to him.
Honor, she was already married when they got engaged that my son didn't know about.
So you were engaged to Mr. Hodges, but you were married to another guy at the time?
Yes, Your Honor. I feel like he has been deceived and took advantage of.
What was your first impression when you met Ms. Willard? What did you think?
I thought she was sneaky.
And the house of cards came crumbling down. After Mrs. Hodges' testimony, Ms. Willard was now cemented as the villain of the story. Hiding someone she was allegedly cheating with in her house was bad enough, but getting engaged to Mr. Hodges while she was still married? That's just diabolical.
Is Lillian your only child?
No, Your Honor. She hid that from us too, at first.
Back it up. Back it up. So she hid that she had a husband before she met you, and you were engaged to her when she really already had a husband. She hid that she had had a child, and she also hid a man in her mother's house when you came over.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Willard must be great at hide and seek because she was hiding relationship deal breakers like a pro. Things were only getting worse for Ms. Willard and her mom, and the longer the case went on, the more guilty she looked.
She called me and she said that she was 8 months pregnant, and
8 months?
yes, later on down the road, I'm sitting there texting her every day, asking about the baby, seeing if the doctor's appointments are going well and everything. Come find out whenever we called her OBG to see when her next appointment was, they said it was her checkup for the baby.
Checkup?
Yes, ma'am.
How does one person have so much to hide? Ms. Willard managed to hide the fact that she had been pregnant and had given birth to baby Lily from someone who could potentially be the baby's father.
May 27th, Ms. Hodges writes to Ms. Willard, "How's the baby doing?" Ms. Willard says she's okay, her lungs aren't fully developed right now. And then you write, "And when is she due?" That was on May 27th at 8:25 a.m. And Lillian was born on what day?
May the 23rd.
The court's reaction was enough to say it all. It wasn't hearsay anymore, and Ms. Willard had been caught red-handed yet again in a lie huge enough to break any relationship apart. Lying about the baby being born was so unnecessary, but she did it anyway. The proof was in the pudding, and boy, oh boy, were we eating that pudding up.
But I want to know why. Why are you lying? What was the lie about? Was it because you wanted to be with the other guy, so you didn't want Mr. Hodges up there?
No, that's not why.
So
Your Honor,
what was it?
she wanted to do a DNA test on the other guy first. Just to make sure.
So hold on now. Now that's another lie you just told right here.
At this point, Ms. Willard had weaved so many lies up that she'd entangled herself. She might have tripped up when she lied to Judge Lake about speaking to the other guy, about her baby, and the possibility that he might be the father. If Ms. Willard was Pinocchio, her nose definitely wouldn't fit in the courtroom.
Did you tell the other guy, could he possibly be the biological father, and you said no?
I never told him that. He wanted a DNA test, so I was gonna give him one. And then we found out he was the dad, and he was like, well, don't worry about it, because now I know.
How'd you find out he was the dad?
Because
We're here in this courtroom to find out.
Because the way that she looks
just like him.
This was a mess! Ms. Willard was crying, and Mr. Hodges was clearly lost in thought. There had been enough drama between these two young adults for 2 lifetimes, and it was finally time for some peace and calm. And at that point, the only thing that could bring the peace they so desperately needed was the DNA test results. Let's hear it.
Mr. Hodges, you are the father. We have the answer we needed. And it was actually the answer all of you wanted. You okay, honey?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I want to meet with you both in my chambers. Knowledge is power, right? And in order for you to be able to teach Lillian the things you need to teach her, you have to be willing to do the same.
This case is so crazy it might as well be a joke! And don't worry, you'll get that reference soon enough. Ms. Boyd was furious at Mr. Henderson for denying their 27-year-old daughter and causing emotional distress to both Ms. Boyd and her daughter.
Ms. Boyd, you say the defendant's paternity denial destroyed your daughter's childhood and has caused emotional distress to prove that Mr. Henderson is Regina's father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Henderson, you say there is no need for a DNA test because it is impossible that you are Regina's dad.
Yes, Your Honor.
It's worth noting that the child in question, Regina Wilson, is 27 years old. That means if Mr. Henderson is really Ms. Wilson's father, he has been absent from her life for nearly 3 decades. That's terrible any way you look at it.
Well, Your Honor, I met Ruben, and he used to come by my house like for 2 years. Basically that, I couldn't really get out often to see him.
And so this started when you were younger?
Yes.
And he was in pursuit of you. He made it known that he wanted to get to know you, date you, and he would come by your house.
That's where I thought, Your Honor, yes.
Like many, many men that had come before him and after him, Mr. Henderson would say anything to get in Miss Boyd's pants. So he wooed her, charmed her, and lied to her until he had accomplished his ultimate goal, to sleep with her. But as is often the case, that one night of pleasure was the door to a whole world of problems.
So what happened that night, Miss Boyd? What happened that night?
It wasn't even that night. It was in the daytime because I'm not allowed to be outside at night. So anyway, he took me in, I guess I don't know whose room it was, but we did it, and majority it happened so fast, that's why I didn't even think it could have been his baby.
That's what I'm talking about now. You told the truth right there.
But hold on, Mr. Anderson.
Okay.
Didn't nobody say it gotta be long?
Okay.
Interesting. Thanks to a no-holds-barred testimony from Miss Boyd, we got a few more details about this relationship than we had bargained for. So Mr. Henderson and Miss Boyd got down and dirty once, many years ago. But according to both of them, it was over before it had even started. They finally agreed on something.
We didn't have sex. She came into the room, and when she took off her clothes, I said, man, not now. Not now. I was too blitzed. I was high. She took off her clothes, and then when I took off my clothes, that was it. It was over.
And how do you know that if you were admittedly under the influence?
A time I got on top of her, it happened.
Just that fast.
Just that fast.
Things just took a surprising turn. So apparently Mr. Henderson denies ever having sex with Miss Boyd. He sounds very convincing, but hey, it was 27 years ago. He probably forgot the details. And if it was as quick as Miss Boyd put it, his mind probably just blocked it out to protect his self-esteem.
At the point you find out you're pregnant, take me to that moment, Miss Boyd.
Okay, first of all, I didn't think it was his baby because I was with somebody else at the time. So when I did find out I was pregnant, that's why I didn't think it was his. That's what I mean by I wasn't experienced, because it happened so fast, I didn't know I could have been pregnant by him.
So Ms. Boyd just admitted that at the time she was intimate with Mr. Henderson, she was also seeing another man. When asked if she used protection, she said no, and we know what that means. This just got a lot more interesting.
Okay, well, down from the apartments, we got mailbox all in one spot.
Okay.
So I'm walking down there with her in the stroller.
With Regina in the stroller.
Right.
And what happened?
And he walks up to me and told me something, is that my baby? And I told him, no, it wasn't his baby. And then he like, well, can we take it to my mom? So I told him, go ahead, it ain't your baby. So he took her in there and came back to me and said that his mama said that's his baby.
Did that happen, Mr. Henderson?
That's what you said now.
No! The confusion in this courtroom is insane. Did Mr. Henderson want the child to be his or not? Was the other man Ms. Wilson's father or not? At this point, we had more questions than answers, and we were desperately looking for some clarity. But what we got instead was borderline evil.
Mr. Henderson contacted me on Facebook saying, I'm your daddy. And then I'm like, is he trying to talk to me? Because he had his cat daddy blue suit on, and I'm like, oh, okay. My mom was in the room at that moment, so I asked her about Mr. Henderson. She said she forgot all about Mr. Henderson. Me and Mr. Henderson exchanged numbers. I go over to his house and spend time with him, trying to build a relationship.
Yeah, you heard that right. Mr. Henderson literally got a hold of Ms. Wilson on social media and texted her that he was her father, unprovoked. From there, the two went on to bond, exchange numbers, and even meet at Mr. Henderson's house. But according to Ms. Wilson, she'd never heard from him since. But what Mr. Henderson had to say about that situation was absolutely insane.
I was going down my Facebook page and I see Renee's name. Her daughter's name was Regina. I said, let me, just joking. Hey, I'm your dad.
Oh, come on, you were that.
I'm your. I said, I'm your dad.
Mr. Henderson has a nasty habit of finding ladies on Facebook and telling them that he's their father as a joke. Now that's one twisted sense of humor. With the whole court against him and jugged a lake, well, judging him, Mr. Henderson was drowning in shame.
What kind of joke is that?
I was joking around with her. Oh, that's Facebook. I joke around.
Why would you joke around with a young woman 20 years younger than you who should be a child in your eyes? Why would you joke around with her? What's funny about that?
I joke around with a lot of people.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do.
So have you ever said, I'm your daddy to anybody else?
Yes.
So you just go around telling young women, I'm your daddy?
Yes, even though I ain't been intimate with them.
For what?
Just out of entertainment.
Now this case had one major revelation. Mr. Henderson was not the kind-hearted, sweet-talking gentleman that we met at the start. And if he is Ms. Wilson's father, then boy, does he have a lot of catching up to do. It's time for the DNA test results, and with everything at stake here, nobody is smiling.
Are her father.
I want to say, I want to apologize to him because he did try to tell me in the beginning, but I just hope you really do step up in her life because she really needs him.
I will.
Leading a double life and then blaming the baby mama for fooling around with other men. Such claims have gotten so common in paternity court. However, Miss Sutton isn't a drab that can be easily pushed around like that.
Him and his other baby mama were together when he was supposed to be with me. Like, he was staying with me, living with me. I used to see him every day. He used to come home every night. And then all of a sudden, when I get pregnant, it's an issue. When I post my picture of my ultrasound when I got pregnant with my daughter on Facebook, I tagged him in it, and that's when she messaged me, and she told me who she was.
Ooh, Daddy's a compulsive liar who just can't stick with one woman. And on top of that, the guy had the nerve to switch the infidelity tables towards the plaintiff. That's just twisty. Let's watch how he tries to defend himself.
First time we had a sexual encounter, we met at my auntie's house. We stayed, spent the night with each other, had our first sexual encounter. So after we had sex, I had went out of town to Cleveland, Ohio on a vacation. It was on the 4th of July, and she called my cousin's phone and something like, is DJ around you? Oh, I'm pregnant by you. I'm like, you pregnant by who? She's like, by you. I'm like, him, you lying, you gotta be lying. I'm like, what about Jimmy, Joe, and John?
Jimmy, Joe, and John? Yeah, what about them? Well, according to Mr. Smith, the non-exclusive girlfriend was sleeping with so many men that it was even hard to remember their names, which would tick anyone off.
You've been denying my baby from day one. When she looked just like you, ain't nobody in my family got no big forehead like that. That baby look just like you. Even your partners on the street on Fabric say that she look just like you.
I know they will, because every time they look around, you posting the picture. Every time they look around, you posting the picture. Look at him, look at him.
The judge pointed out the same thing here, to which the defendant replied that baby mama was so down with pinning the child on him, and we all know that such doubts have straightforward solutions. Why didn't you opt for that?
I was a man. If I know a baby wasn't mine, I'll be the first one up there to take a DNA test. Point blank.
You was so ghetto. You so ghetto and so
this ain't got nothing to do with you.
I
didn't sleep with you.
Hold on, let's get some order.
Whoa! Calm down, people. They were just at each other's throats. Though it was hard to understand what they were saying. One thing that sounded clear is that when the DNA results hit, it'll show a 99.999 and so on relatedness.
Miss Sutton's not telling you that she done slept with my family members' husbands and baby daddy. And I caught her with one of them. We have tried hard, very hard, to get along with this girl. She has slept with one of my family members, both of her baby daddies. And when I was staying with Miss Sutton, I came home and caught her in bed with one of them.
The grandma was charged up over that fact. Her son's potential baby mama was messing with people in her family. For her, it was a total disgrace. On the other hand, the plaintiff had no remorse for such actions.
But the lease is in my name, isn't it right? The lease was in my name, but you was staying with me.
Miss Collins.
If I can have somebody on there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I pay that rent. I pay the rent. I pay the bill.
You ran off on $500. What's
All right.
Hold on, let's get some order.
Further, Miss Sutton added that whatever her dealing had been before her having her daughter, none of them had to do with the baby girl's conception. But Miss Smith's mother was stuck on the plaintiff being the femme fatale who destroyed men.
What he was mine then.
You bought him. You bought him. You bought him just like you tried to buy my son and everybody else.
What do you mean? All you gotta do is buy him some cigarettes and some beer.
My family member, her husband and baby daddy she was dealing with, she did the same thing.
Listen, I'm getting it now. Ooh, even though y'all give me a headache.
They're giving me a headache too. By now, the judge had realized that the animosity between the plaintiff and the defendant's family was ruining the paternity chance for Sutton's daughter, and the defendants agreed that they could take the baby, but the mama was a big no-no.
Her lies, her manipulation.
Well, don't talk to me and don't come around me then.
Why are you nasty?
How about that? I'm being nasty because I've been doing this for 3 years, Tanya. You raised 2 boys by yourself.
So what?
So you know how it is. So don't come at me with that. You all up in his business. You acting like you laying under him. That nasty thing on me.
The good part was that Miss Sutton wasn't bothered by it at all. What had ticked her off was that they were punishing a small child for it, and she was not ready to go easily with that. That's why she screamed at the top of her lungs like that.
I'm doing the best I can to stop being so no.
Because you're acting
No, for one day, my girl, she didn't do nothing to you.
I'm not.
She didn't do nothing to you.
Miss
All
Sutton.
right, and don't try to act like you all hate on me when you been hitting my phone all week trying to be nice.
You been
trying to be cool, like.
With the judge.
As loud as she seemed or as crazy as she sounded, Miss Sutton did wear her heart on her sleeves. And now it was about time the truth was brought forward, so she and her daughter could have their share of respect.
Mr. Smith, you are the father.
Oh, thank you. After 3 years. 3 years.
Okay. It's okay.
I want to see my baby, bro.
Okay. I'm sure she wants to see you too.
Tired of neglect and caring for the child alone, Miss Beckley came in front of Judge Lake, hoping that a DNA test would finally convince her ex-boyfriend to step up and take care of her daughter.
I'm very angry, very frustrated. He's been neglecting her from day one, since I got pregnant with her. And I'm just sick of it, and I just want him to take responsibility of something we both made. It makes me feel angry. I'm angry. She's without a father, you know, and it's terrible that she has to go through that, and I'm raising her on my own.
We all know what note the trial hits from here now, right? The judge asked the mister why he was acting this way, and him replying, "I've got doubts, yada yada yada, cause this and that." Yeah, we get that enough in this courtroom. However, what this defendant testified was something else.
were co-parenting. We were still good friends.
That's not true. Germany's second birthday, he wasn't staying with me, but he ended up coming back on her birthday. We had sex, unprotected.
It wasn't baby making sex. It was angry sex.
It's not about baby making sex. Sex is sex.
It was angry sex.
Sex is sex. Whether it's baby making, love making, hate making, sex is sex, and she's still here as a baby. It don't matter what type of sex it was unprotected.
Even with clear out, Mr. Allen couldn't bring his head around Italy being his daughter, because for him, the conception happened too fast. And there was no way in the world things worked that way.
I want to understand from you, Miss Beckley, how long after you had sex, when it was your daughter's birthday and he came over, was it before you found out you were pregnant and let Mr. Allen know?
So it was after a month when I found out I was pregnant. I called to let him know I was pregnant, and from that, it was like, oh, that don't make sense that you got pregnant too fast.
However, what made things worse was that Mr. Allen wasn't listed as the father, and baby mama didn't let the defendant near the baby girls, which further made his doubts stronger.
You're denying her. Why would I bring her to see you? That don't make sense.
She gave Italy her last name for the simple fact that she want to hurt me and break me down as a father.
Because that's
she
my
want to break
child.
me down as a
That's
man.
why.
Like I said, I didn't have my biological father. He was murdered the year that I was born. It would be a shame not for me to be there for my children.
Insecurities and bad childhood were running through potential baby daddy's testimonies. Still, it wasn't fair that a child was paying the price for it. The future revealed that Italy's presence in Mr. Allen's life was causing problems for him.
I struggle financially, and my fiance and her mother step in. So I can't turn off being a parent. So talking about you're tired.
But you can turn off making babies.
Yeah, you're right, Your Honor.
No, really.
right.
And this is where you gotta be honest. No, stop talking.
Oh, about now, the judge was done with all of the unyielding and fussing in the courtroom. They might have learned to function that way, but Lake wasn't up for it. That's why she addressed the mess that was going on.
Am I in position to bring any more children into the world?
I understand where you're coming from.
Listen, I get what you're saying, and that's
how can
something.
you tell me
Don't
I can
talk
have-
over me, because if you had the answers, you wouldn't be here.
I just don't like
Hold
being
on.
put down.
You're
I don't
not
like being put down
No,
about my kids.
no.
Because
You're
I
not
asked
being.
her for a DNA
You don't
test.
like being told the truth.
Yes, she did. Lauren went there. But it was evident that this whole back and forth was that the dad wasn't ready to let other people's truth ride in the story. For him, it was I went through this and I'm doing that.
That doesn't mean that you've got to create more children to be the best father. That just means be the best father to the children you have, and until you are financially able to have more, don't create more. It is about being the quality of father you can be, not having a quantity of children.
Mr. Allen had the same record playing again and again. That's why the judge called in the fiance to know what had happened between the two parents. The sad part was that Miss Beckley was no help at all.
It's been said that she told another guy he was the father.
Okay, y'all got proof of that, and y'all fiancés, where the ring at?
Girl, mind your business.
Where the ring at, right? You have no business, that's why you're here, because you worried about, was you in the bed with me and him when we had her?
Let's get some order.
Did you have enough of this insanity? Because I know I'm done for sure. Mama was too invested in the defendant while he had his super baby making game on. So let's just skip to the part that would actually sort things out.
Mr. Allen, you are the father.
Told you. You too, fiancé. Stepmama.
Stop.
Mr. Bradley desperately stepped up into the court to puzzle out the 19-year-long mystery of his biological father. Meanwhile, the defendant claimed that he could not be his father as another man had signed his birth certificate.
Mr. Bradley, you say for 19 years you've wondered, who is my father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Tessner, you claim you are 100% sure you are not Mr. Bradley's father.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say another man is on his birth certificate and paid child support. You say the dates of conception do not add up.
Yes, Your Honor, that's right.
The plaintiff alleged that not having a father figure in his life caused him to suffer so much that even he had always felt like he was the third person in everyone's life. Oh my, I don't know why people leave their kids stuck, running here and there alone, searching for their parents alone, when it takes two to make a baby.
Really tough going to my football games. My Jordan Boy Scouts. I had to go with a friend and his father, and kind of felt like a third wheel when I watched them interact with each other. And it's kind of tough, and not having a father myself to go camping with and to take to the juries at the Boy Scouts, and kind of just had to go with other friends and their fathers to do things.
It was slipped that the plaintiff was living a lie, as his mother led him to believe that the man who paid child support for him was his father. But the truth burst out in the heated argument. Mrs. Bradley brought Mr. Tessner into the paternity conflict.
You thought another man was your father.
Correct. I was sitting in the car, and my mom and my aunt were arguing, and my aunt looks at my mom and tells her, well, why don't you tell him who his father is? And looked at my mom and I'm like, what's going on? And my aunt says, well, your father's James Tessner. So then I started pushing my mom into letting me go see him. I met him when I was 13 and didn't get to see him again until I was 18.
The defendant explained his side of the story. He claimed that he could not even remember being intimate with the mother. So how could he believe that he was the father of her baby boy?
I cannot even remember having sex with her, and I never knew that she was pregnant.
You were never contacted.
I was never contacted.
And so when did you first come to know you potentially had a son?
His aunt brought him to my house and said he was my baby, but I didn't believe her because I had heard nothing from the mom, knew nothing about her being pregnant. So I just thought she was messing with me.
Mama testified that when he had the son, she did not put anyone's name on the birth certificate, but when the nurses asked her to put someone's name, she put her boyfriend's name. But her son jumped in and told her that this was not supposed to be done.
I didn't put anybody down on the birth certificate as the dad. I hadn't seen Mr. Tessner in a long time, so I didn't put anybody down. And the nurses said, well, you're gonna have to put somebody down as his dad. And I said, well, I think it's
Excuse me.
my ex-boyfriend.
Excuse me. No, they ain't no nurse can tell you to put nobody on nobody's birth certificate. It should have been left blank.
However, Mr. Tessner articulated his doubts. He claimed that he doubted the paternity due to Mr. Bradley's tan complexion. Ugh, he needs some lessons on complexion. As we all know, people come in all colors, so denying for this reason was just lame.
I think he looks like the other man, and I heard that the other man took a DNA test before he started paying child support. Have Lil to pull his britchy legs up. Look here, see how white I am? Look how white I am. Pull your pants leg up, Lil. Mr. Bradley.
So you're saying it's his skin tone?
His skin color.
I wear shorts.
He's darker than me.
The defendant further claimed that Miss Bradley was the sore liar who just changed her mind when she thought that another man could provide more efficiently than the other man. Gosh, who plays this kind of paternity game with their children?
I think she just changes it to whoever's doing better. That's who she tells him his daddy is. That's what I believe.
And this makes you angry because potentially you missed out on...
If he is my son, I missed out on a lot, didn't I? And if he ain't, look at what he's been put through over it.
Exactly. Thank you.
All because of lies. Because every time she talks, she's lying.
Nevertheless, the alleged father testified that he had been intimate with Mommy for one time only. And other than that, he admitted banging Mrs. Bradley's sister, not her. That was just ridiculous, sir.
We only slept together once. If we slept then, I remember pulling over on the side of the road to make out, but I honestly do not remember having sex. I had sex with her sister before I did her, and I remember that. And if I can remember that, why can't I remember her?
It was obvious that baby mama's misunderstanding fermented her son's whole life, and they ended up in this paternity dispute. So the last call to give them the closure they needed was to get those DNA results.
Mr. Tessner, you are his father. And I know you said you feel like you missed out on a lot.
I know I do.
But at least everything's on the square now.